Obesity is a growing problem within the United States. The Center for Disease Control estimates that roughly one-third of Americans are overweight. Understanding the impacts of poor nutrition is critical. Obesity increases risks of disease such as hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Currently, the U.S. spends about $148 billion on obesity-related health issues annually. In addition to these physical health problems, the psychological and emotional state of those suffering from obesity is also at risk. Facing social stigma, the mental stress on overweight Americans, especially American children, can be devastating. As nutritionists, doctors, and the government move forward, there is much to learn about increasing healthy eating patterns in an effort to reduce obesity. This model looks to understand the influences on healthy eating behaviors in the hopes of improving nutritional consumption habits and reducing obesity within the United States. The decision maker for this model is an individual consumer within the market. The choice variable is the nutritional density of foods consumed, represented by the variable D. The objective function components are made up of the health of the individual, H, as a function of weight and genetic risk of disease. Weight is a function of metabolism, calories consumed per day, and nutritional density of foods. A cost of health in the objective function is effort needed to obtain food, which is a function of food availability and nutritional density of foods. The final term represents the palatability of foods as a function of nutritional density of foods. Figure 1 is concave with a positive slope because it experiences diminishing marginal returns. By increasing the nutritional density of food intake, individual health is improved. However, as one increases the nutritional density of their food consumption, the health they obtain is gradually decreasing in magnitude. This can be understood by thinking about an individual who consumes a very low amount of nutritionally dense foods. By increasing their nutrient intake even a little bit, they experience a large return on health. In comparison, when looking at a high nutrient consumer, increasing their nutrient intake has much less impact on their health as they are already very healthy. Figure 2 is convex with a positive slope because it experiences increasing marginal costs. As nutritional density of food increases, the effort to obtain nutritional food increases. In many areas, access to things like farmers markets or local food producers is scarce, meaning that in order to consume nutritionally dense foods sold at these locations, increases in effort are required to obtain the food. Figure 3 is convex with a negative slope because unhealthier foods tend to have better taste. American foods are especially loaded with unhealthy substances, but they are so popular because of their high palatability. As the consumer eats more nutritionally dense foods, he or she sacrifices higher palatability because healthier foods tend to be less preferred by the average consumer. The benefits of eating healthy have a limit, as each individual consumer's nutrient intake becomes less impactful on health the more frequently the consumer intakes them. Additionally, when considering what foods to consume, individuals are often highly motivated by palatability and can be restricted by the amount of effort required to obtain nutritionally dense foods. As a result of this, many consumers select foods low in nutrient density, perpetuating issues of obesity within the United States. One of the main barriers to healthy eating is the availability and proximity of nutritional food to the consumer. The closer the nutritional food is to the consumer, the easier it is for the consumer to eat healthily, reducing their effort costs. Therefore, the more available the food is to the consumer, the more likely that the consumer will purchase that nutritional food and increase the nutritional density per day. In order to assess the impact of changing availability of food, a first-order condition of the objective model function was taken to find marginal cost and marginal benefit. Then, by increasing availability, we can see that in order to regain an equal balance between marginal cost and marginal benefit, the first term, health, must experience an increase in nutritional density of foods consumed in order to decrease its overall value, illustrated in Figure 4. The second term, representing effort to get healthy foods, experiences a shift inward as A increased. Therefore, in order to regain equilibrium, the magnitude of nutritional foods consumed must increase. Finally, when availability is increased, the term representing palatability must increase in order to regain the relationship between marginal benefit and marginal cost, meaning the magnitude of nutritionally dense foods must increase. As we have illustrated, when availability is increased, in order to re-establish an equilibrium between marginal benefit and marginal cost, the value of variable D, nutritional density of foods, will increase for all terms. Thus, an increase in the availability of foods leads to an increase in the nutritional density intake of the consumer. In their study, Walker, Keene, and Burke established there is persisting unequal access to food within the United States. This is especially true in impoverished and racially diverse regions where access to supermarkets and locally grown foods is particularly low. This study supports the findings within the model that suggest access to food has a large impact on healthy eating practices and nutritional consumption patterns. A second study supporting this finding was conducted by researchers Popkin and Gordon Larson, who illustrated that underdeveloped nations experience far greater fluctuations in the amount of nutrition consumed, but they still remain consistently low compared to developed nations. This exemplifies the relationship availability has to nutritional eating patterns and obesity rates. Due to influences the consumer cannot control, such as food availability, many Americans consume low-cost, highly palatable foods that are not nutrient-dense. Many low-cost, highly palatable foods are also calorically dense, leading to increases in obesity within the population as a whole. Recognizing this, policymakers should work to promote local food producers, farmers markets, and reduce food deserts in an effort to decrease consumer effort and promote health. Taking these steps could be the first move in reducing the obesity epidemic in the United States.